Got to do this mic check.
I think we're live though.
Yeah, we live.
Okay. Yeah.
I just gotta make sure. Can you hear?
I hear you. Yeah.
You can hear me?
I hear you.
All right, cool. Then I'm feeling good. If we can hear each other already, then we good. Okay, yeah. So just jump on in if you want to. This is Big Game James. I told you I was going live here in a minute. This is my post-game show. I told you I wasn't going to do it last night because everybody and their mama was going to be going live talking about them daggone Cowboys, and I'm not doing that. So I said, you know what? I'm going to wait till the next day, and here we are. And guess what? I got my special guest appearance. What's up, everybody? Jump on in. Mr. Derek Kirby, DDP. We go way back. This is my dog. We go way back. My guy's covering the Dallas prospect. Make sure you go check that out, especially if you like any kind of Mavericks basketball. If you're a Dallas Mavericks fan, him and Kevin Gray, because I got to give Kevin Gray his props too. I like Kevin Gray, but my dog DDP is that man. If you're a Mavericks fan, you need to go sub to his channel, get on his channel. You're gonna get everything you want. But also, since we ain't talked in a while, my dog just got on with Blogging of the Boys. He's a great writer. I wrote for him. He wrote with the Dallas Prospects. His writings are off the hook. Got on with Blogging the Boys just recently, and more things are to come. But introduce yourself real quick, DDP, because I ain't saw you in my channel in a very long time. Talk a little bit about Blogging the Boys, all that good stuff, how you got on, and then we'll jump right into some Cowboys football, what we kind of saw.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, it's a new day and another shot at the title. So, yeah, it's been a minute since I've been on here. Like you said, thank you for the introduction and everything. Obviously, I do a lot of Mavericks content, but I've always stayed in tune with Cowboy stuff as well. So, like you mentioned, I recently picked up a front page writing gig with Blogging the Boys, and I've already had a few pieces come out with them as well. But really, it's just about trying to kind of expand the horizons in that regard. So I'm writing for Blogging the Boys. I'm writing for The Smoking Cuban. Dallas Prospect, of course, always never stops. So it's really just relentless work on that front. But yeah, Cowboys season got underway last night, and I've got some thoughts on some guys here, including, just to throw a quick plug to my article here, something that I wanted to explore a little bit as well. My piece that came out earlier this morning, talking about
Talk about it.
Yeah. So one thing with all the attention that's been on CeeDee Lamb in training camp, all these circus catches and everything like that, and I am hyped. You know as well as anybody, CeeDee Lamb is one of my favorite OU players of all time. Being from Oklahoma originally, OU's my team. That's where we differ, you as a Longhorn. But in that regard, I'm as hyped as anybody for CeeDee and what his potential here is. But I still think that there's been a little bit of neglect, perhaps, in terms of the attention paid to Amari Cooper. I know he's almost back now in camp from his bone spur removal procedure. But even still, it's like people are talking like CeeDee's already the number one guy. And I'm trying to say, like, let's not forget what we got. A 27-year-old multi-pro bowler who in 2.5 years, only one full year with Dak, has over 3,000 receiving yards, over 220 receptions, and 19 touchdowns as a Cowboy. Like, let's not forget that dude, because that dude is a stone cold killer as well.
Yeah, he's definitely a stone cold killer. And I made a post, DDP, and I put up CeeDee Lamb, and I'm not going away from it. CeeDee Lamb, my game changer. Amari Cooper, silent assassin. Amari Cooper don't talk too much. He don't say too much. That's been his whole career. But he just gets the job done. He silently executes you with his route running, with how he sets you up with his moves. I mean, he's a surgeon with his route running. He's been like that since Alabama, and he doesn't really talk about it. So he was my more silent assassin. And then I put Michael Gallup as my big play Ray, because out of nowhere, when you ain't even talking about Gallup, you throw it deep, and then you get Gallup for a 50-yard bomb. You get what I'm saying? Yep. So I definitely ain't forgot Coop. In my opinion, I still feel like CeeDee Lamb is going to be the game changer of the team when we're talking about game-changing plays, and Cooper has done that. Cooper has been the game changer before CeeDee Lamb has gotten there. Now I feel like it's, to me, it's more of a poetry in motion, and it's not a knock to Cooper. This, I feel like, makes Cooper even better, because now you can take some of the tension off of Cooper, even though Cooper will still, when he's going to command double teams and things of that nature. The emergence of a CeeDee Lamb makes the game easier for Cooper. Now, remember how we always talked about DDP, how Cooper makes the game easier for Michael Gallup. Cooper makes the game easier for a CeeDee Lamb. But if you get a CeeDee Lamb who emerges as a true number one, now he makes the game easier for Amari Cooper, because now he can start seeing the one-on-one matchups that he probably wasn't seeing before, because you got an element of a guy who's stepping up. So it makes the game easier for him. So he's still going to shine, and now he can work on maybe a number two at times. He can jump in that slot and get because I'm telling you, I wouldn't mind putting CD outside and putting Amari in the slot on plays too. Mix and match those guys. Yep. Put Gallup in the slot. Put both Amari and a Lamb on the outside. You get what I'm saying? You got that creativity. But at the end of the day, with these three, it's making everybody better, because we've seen 3-man combos. I compare it to Minnesota with Randy Moss, Chris Carter, and Jake Reed, because they were all significant in what they did. And if those three can do what they did in that little small sample with Dak last year, and they have a full sample of Dak this year, it's going to be nuts.
Yeah, absolutely. CD at OU in his final season, about half his production was inside in the slot. You know, it was a perfect balance in that regard. And so when you have someone that can mix and match, like we think with Kellen Moore, as far as the offense and the looks, this isn't the super vanilla days like we had with Linehan and Garrett kind of calling plays and things like that. I think they are a little bit more willing to experiment and give fresh looks in that regard. So yeah, take advantage of guys like that. When you have precision route runners, you can move them all around. This isn't like, and this isn't to be a shot at Dez or anything like that, but you have something you didn't have in the past. And instead of just having to go win the jump ball or something of that effect, you now have these guys that can break down a defense, that can mislead and misdirect in that regard. And that just completely changes the entire game in that regard. I hadn't really thought about Gallup in terms of the slot, but if he's got the ability to do it, then by all means, change it up. He's definitely that deep threat. He's definitely the guy who, as much as I talked about even in this article, Cooper being kind of the guy that gets overlooked or forgotten a little bit, really Gallup can make that argument most. But I think Gallup, we kind of understand, odds are he's on his way. Like, this will be, I think, his last year probably, just because they don't have the money and the justification at this point to pay him when you've already got CD and that. Cooper with guaranteed money, maybe you have that in this offseason, because I think in terms of the guaranteed money that you have, that runs out after this year. But even still, you're talking a 28-year-old Cooper, you're probably going to keep that as your number one. Or if CD rises up, then certainly a very, very strong number two. So it's interesting. Like you mentioned with Dak last year, before his injury, Cooper was on pace for 1,400 yards. CD Lamb and Cooper, they didn't have Dak for 2/3 plus of the season. And yet CD had 935 yards receiving, and Cooper had a career high 1,189. Like, ridiculous what they were able to do with backup quarterbacks. And that's why I am so encouraged. If Dak is back and he looks like he did in those first 5 games, then I think the sky is the limit for this offense.
Definitely, and especially what you were talking about, those numbers. That was a very small sample, and that was with backups after game 5. So you can only imagine with the healthy Dak, and let's basically knock on wood, because we heard I heard the little thing about Jay Glazer, what he was talking about. Nothing of they're saying no concern, but obviously they're not going to put that concern. Now let's keep it all the way real, DDP. Jay Glazer saying that, okay, I feel him, and I'm not pushing no panic button on Dak. But they're not going to say anything negative with Dak just signing that contract. They're not going to say anything negative with that arm. They're not. Yeah. They're going to say he's going to be good going into week 1. He is going to be fully recuperated. They are not going to push, because that's going to push a panic button through Dallas Cowboy world. It's going to cause a bunch of negative talk and hysteria if they say, oh, this is a real serious baseball injury. You get what I'm saying? So yeah. I think this is just a situation of PR. Hey, we're just keeping this on the low, and I just hope everything is good with his arm, because if it is, I think we're going to see record type potential with this offense, especially with the healthy Zeke. The offensive line looks pretty healthy, and we're going to jump right into that. That's a good segue to talk about this game, since we're talking about the offensive line, because it was in shambles last year, mix and matching. So many guys were in and out, injuries. It was crazy. But you saw Tyler Biadasz was back in the lineup. I thought he'd play well. Connor Williams was the left guard. Conor McGovern, my guy, was the right guard. Leo Collins was as the right tackle, and I believe that Nitschke guy from Buffalo came over, was starting left tackle, because Tyron Smith didn't make the trip. My first thing about the offensive line that I noticed, and I'm going to get your thoughts on it, was I like Biadasz. I like how he's taken up that year 2. I like how he's the signal caller. You just has the smarts to play the position. You can see, I think he's just going to continue to get better. But my guy, I can't front. Leo Collins looked good. But Conor McGovern, I wanted to get your thoughts on this. Conor McGovern, because I've been on him since day one, and finally saw a small sample of him DDP in that game. Dog, he played stout that whole drive, them whole few drives. No, that dude didn't move him. He was pushing. He looked like you're supposed to do at the guard position, not getting pushed back, pushing forward, holding the point of attack. I saw it. I was like, he needs to be the starter. But they got Connor Williams. But Connor Williams, the second series, went in at center again because he wanted to play center last year. We had Brian brought us on the show. He said he volunteered last year to play center. That stuck in my brain. I didn't never forget that, DDP. And guess what? He's playing center now. I think two things. It shows his versatility for him in an upcoming contract, DDP, because if he doesn't get re-signed, he can go to another team and say, I played guard, I played tackle in college, and I played center. That helps him to get money. You get what I'm saying?
Yep.
Also, if you're just going to sit there and something happen, you can slide a McGovern in there, say Biadasz gets hurt. Now you got, I know they got the rookie, but you got Connor Williams. So now you don't feel as bad as, let's say, Biadasz got hurt. Connor Williams does pretty good at center. Now you got Connor Williams, Zach Martin, McGovern, Tyron Smith, and La'el Collins. I think that's what they're trying to do to keep the best five possible. Kind of give me your thoughts, Big Dog.
Well, yeah, I thought the offensive line looked good in what we saw last night. Like you said, they had a lot of injuries last year. You got nothing out of La'el Collins because of the hip. You only got a couple games out of Tyron Smith because of the neck. And then you didn't even have Zach Martin the last 5 games. So your offensive line completely depleted in that regard. And that's another reason as well. I point to the receivers and their production and why that's such an impressive thing, because there was no protection and no time for routes to develop and things of that nature. So that's strong for them. So having them back is already a big improvement as well this year. I did like Biadasz in that regard as well. Those Wisconsin O linemen, we know how that kind of rolls, obviously, having had Frederick all those years. And, I liked the dynamic nature that they're trying to kind of build with these guys who can work in multi-positional things, whether it's Connor Williams or whoever. But it kind of makes it hard, I think, for them to kind of carve out a single role where they have a real expertise, right? We've talked about this, relating in a different nature too, jack of all trades, master of none, that kind of thing. It's it's great that you can go out and you can do several of these things pretty well, but you have to eventually have something where it's that's my spot. And I feel like with Williams, it's been a little, in my opinion, a little too fluid in that regard. It's great, but it feels like he's still trying to kind of carve out that permanent home. And, with McGovern, we were pretty harsh at times on him with how he kind of came about and developed. And I think he was a second round pick, right? Second round pick out of Penn State.
Yeah, second, I believe, second round pick. And, his injury year, his rookie year was just totally wiped out with the pec injury.
Yes. So with guys like that, I think we're kind of so snapped to judgment now, where it's we don't really give some guys a chance to develop and actually get an opportunity to grow in that regard. And so when he struggled then at times last year, there was times oh, well, there you go. It's a second round bust. You can't afford those. And I think that was a little bit unfair. I think it's at this point, you're kind of seeing a little bit how he's handling himself a little better, kind of carving out, like you said, that role stout in that regard. And that's encouraging. You need those picks to work out. I just think that the assumption is if you get a guy in the first couple of rounds, he has to be able to come in either rookie or certainly second year, already be almost like a staple. And that just wasn't quite the case with him, but it looks like it's rounding into form now, which is encouraging, because this team is as good as the skill positions are. The trenches is where this team has to win, not just the offensive line, but the defensive line. This identity has been built around being able to run the ball and actually protect the passer. And when you didn't have that last year, it's not a coincidence that the year Dak suffers his first major injury is the year the offensive line is in utter shambles. You know what I mean?
Right. And it was, we saw it up until he got his injury. Just my opinion, the best five are Biadasz, Martin, McGovern, Collins, and Smith. That's the lineup I think they should roll with. I know they got Connor Williams, but my thing is just me. I'm a wheeler and dealer. This is just me, DDP. I'll wheel and deal, and I know Jerry did wheel and deal back in the day, but I know they curved it back. But I'm a wheel and dealer right now. I'm be looking on horns, getting on the phone, and I know you want to keep the depth, and I think that's the main reason why they wouldn't mess around and get rid of a Connor Williams, because they don't worry about the injuries, because we saw what happened last year with the injuries, and we don't feel good about. I don't still feel good about no Terrence Steele from last night. You
No.
get what I'm saying? You don't feel good about him. You don't feel good about Brandon Knight either.
No.
You get what I'm saying? And here's my thing. I was trumpeting Brandon Knight, not saying he was a starter. I said he could be an adequate backup, but I see why they moved him back to guard now. He was more of a tackle, but he just can't handle that tackle. And if that's happening in the preseason, he's going to get ate up alive again. And Terrence Steele just ain't that dude. He's a backup, if that. So the depth is lacking. So that's why I could see why they wouldn't part from him with a pick or something like that, because your backup depth ain't good without those guys. You get what I'm saying? So I understand the thoughts, but I feel like this will probably be Connor Williams when we talk about that class of 2018 who will be returning. I would say Gallup is not returning just because of the money if he has a pretty good year. I would say Connor Williams is not returning because now you can just slide Conor McGovern right in there, and you can always draft another guard in your draft next year with your guy being McGovern. LVE, we have to see with that. Because this is a crucial year. They declined his 5th year. They need to see if he's healthy, but I'm sure he can get bigger offers, DDP, somewhere else. So I think this may be his last run, because I don't think Dallas will pay him that somebody else will pay him more.
Right.
And then here's the tricky one, Dalton Schultz now.
Yep.
Because Dalton Schultz showed up last year and he's showing up this year. But they just gave Blake Jarwin that money. Are they going to play 2 tight ends? What do you think on that, DDP?
I think you're going to see a little bit of that for sure. I think you're going to see a balance in that regard, because Schultz did have such a good year last year. They paid Jarwin more for what he's flashed in the potential, but obviously with him tearing, I think it was his ACL and like 6 snaps into last season.
Right.
I mean, just brutal luck for him in that regard. But I think they're probably going to lean on that. That is an interesting consideration. Like you said, you talked about that 2018 class and how moving forward, it is very sketchy in terms of like, oh, who stays, who goes. We know that whether we're talking about the Cowboys or the Mavericks, there's very much a culture of we like our guys. Like they like to re-sign their own guys. And I think that gets us into trouble at times because, yes, I understand that you know them and it's like the devil you know or the devil you don't, And so I feel like at times there's that over-reliance on that. But really, you can't afford to keep paying all of your own guys. Like you have to be able to be flexible in that regard. So they'll probably, like you said, not end up retaining LVE. He looks good right now, but we've always known with LVE, if he's healthy, then he's a real difference maker. The problem is, aside from that rookie year, you haven't really got a chance to see that. And so I would say, given, like you pointed out, someone's probably going to pay him on the potential of what he can be if healthy. Just everyone always has that like blind trust of like, oh, well, we can keep him healthy or we can protect him better. And a lot of times that's just not what it comes down to. As you saw, even with the irritations to his injury, his neck and everything last year, sometimes it's just a routine tackle. It doesn't even look like anything vicious, and there's an issue. So I think in that regard, you're probably right. It's probably going to be his last season with the Cowboys. But if healthy, hopefully you can get a great year out of him, and then you'll get a compensatory pick. And that's kind of the game of what you should be looking at anyway. So there's all kinds of elements like that across the roster. But Dalton Schultz, I think, is a very intriguing one because I do think while he's not the penciled-in starter, that's Jarwin, I think he's going to get a lot of opportunity, whether it's just him in or if it's 2 tight end sets like you were talking about.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a good thing for the Cowboys at the end of the day. McKinnon, number 84, had a couple good catches yesterday. I was excited to see him as well. But let's talk about some of the offensive. Let's start with the offense, DDPs. We already talked about the offensive line. Let's talk about the offense. Let's talk about Garrett Gilbert, the receivers. First of all, let's talk about Garrett Gilbert. What's your thoughts about Garrett Gilbert? I'm gonna give you my initial thoughts of Gilbert. Let me pull up his stats. You got his stats right quick, DDP?
I don't have it right in front of me, but
Here
I
I
can
go.
get them real
I
quick.
got it. I
Okay.
got it right. Yep, I got it right here. So Garrett Gilbert yesterday was 9 of 13 for 104 yards. He was sacked a couple times. He
Hmm.
threw a couple bad throws. He underthrew a tight end. I don't know if I can't remember. I think it was Schultz, and it would have been for a first down. He underthrew him,
Yeah.
but he stood strong in the pocket. He looked confident. I think the team plays well with him. Now, before I made a video DDP earlier before the game, right?
Hmm.
And I was talking about the backup position. And I said, I like Gilbert, but it still scares me, DDP. They only has started one game in the NFL. Okay. And even though it was the Pittsburgh Steelers and he
Yep.
played good, and I like his moxie. I like how the team kind of flows to him too. He throws a
Hmm.
good ball. He played at the University of Texas, so we know him because you're an Oklahoma guy. I'm a Texas guy.
Hmm.
We've seen him in the we know what he can do. You feel me?
Right.
But I guess it's still scary because it's just so unproven. If that goes down, you're like, could he really do it? And you feel like you want somebody more who's had that game experience, who's played 18, 20, 30, 40 games and had that experience of being in the highs and the lows of
Hmm.
the intricacies of game time. You feel what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So I
Yeah.
guess I feel safer if I got another veteran. But I like Gilbert. I like what I saw from Gilbert. I like his command. What's your thoughts on Garrett Gilbert? And do you think the Cowboys should go and look for somebody else on the free agent tip as a backup
Well,
QB, or keep Gilbert?
yeah, yeah. So I think Gilbert had a pretty strong game. I think certainly of the crop of backups we have right now, that he's the best of the three. Although I thought Cooper Rush actually had a
Right.
pretty good day as well.
Uh-huh.
And I think with Garrett Gilbert, like you said, he is unproven. Both sacks he took, I felt like he hung in the pocket too long.
Hmm.
Got stripped, nearly got stripped another time in one of those sacks where I don't know if it's internal timer or if it's just him really hanging on too long, just waiting. Like if it's a three-step drop, you can't just sit back there and wait for so long. It's not intended to be a slow developing play. And I think he gets himself into a little bit of trouble there. Now, Pittsburgh did do a lot more blitzing than I expected yesterday. I thought they really lived up in that regard to the Blitzburg nickname.
Right.
And I know that was something that Dave Halpern with Blogging the Boys was talking about in kind of our game thread we were doing within the site.
Hmm.
And I think that definitely made the Cowboys line, particularly the second unit and all of that, it caught them by surprise. They didn't seem as prepared for
Hmm.
that. So that disrupted things and kind of made it a little bit harder to evaluate in some of these regards. The one guy I can say for sure that I'm not impressed in, I've never really seen the buzz around him, is DiNucci.
Right.
I mean, yeah, he can throw a nice sidearm pass, but even in his sidearm pass, it's like the beautiful one he threw at one point where Aikman's kind of gloating, or not gloating, but gushing over the angles at which he can throw the ball. It's like he still threw it behind the receiver, and that's why it wasn't caught for a first down.
Right.
Like, he's got arm talent, but it never seems to translate. Like, it's always like the beautiful almost, it seems like. So I'm not impressed with DiNucci in that regard. He was 7 of 17 for 89 yards, had a bad pick as well. And that one, I don't know what was going on there, because there were two receivers right by each other. And so that just seemed like it was a disastrous draw up, or just where the guys broke in general from the start. And that was on his really bad pick. But I would say, given what you have right now, Gilbert is serviceable. But if you're having to rely on any backup, yeah, like whether it's a short term window or a situation like last year where disaster strikes with Dak, then I think you're in serious trouble anyway. You're not going to have someone on this roster who can go do like what Foles did with Philadelphia. Like, in that regard, you should be open to the idea of looking at the backup market. But that's a really hard thing to secure, to have a guy that can step in and be a competent starter, because usually they're already starting somewhere. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't want to overpay or do something that complicates things in that regard. I think Gilbert, based on this small sample size, is probably your best bet there right now, even though he is unproven.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that one, just because Blake Bortles was thrown out there, but when I see Garrett Gilbert, Blake Bortles, yeah, he won games for real. You went to the NFC Championship, but
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be jumping up for joy if they got Blake Bortles. You know what I mean? I wouldn't look at there's a bigger difference from Blake Bortles to Garrett Gilbert.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter just because he was drafted in the first round. That doesn't mean anything any longer. You get what I'm
Right.
saying? It meant something back in the day, but now you cut and you ain't with that squad, so it no longer means anything to me. So, kind of thoughts on that, and I feel you with that. So let's talk about these receivers. Then we're gonna talk about the running backs because TP
Mhm.
didn't get no kind of tick, and I was kind of like, damn, dog, TP need to run that ball. He got 2 carries for 9 yards. Rico Dowdell had 8 carries for 43. He looked good, and I feel like he's gonna be back on his roster.
Mhm.
But receivers,
Yep.
my guy I've been talking about, Malik Turner. I've been saying, man, I watched him last year. I didn't think he'd have a chance this year. I didn't. I saw him at camp and he stood out to me. He was the first guy that stood out to me. I was like, man, number 17. I didn't know his number. I didn't know his name. I was like, he keep catching everything, getting open, catching everything, and he plays special teams. Then when I saw him again, I did a 55-man roster with my guy, Billy the Kid, and I didn't have him on the roster. I had Fehoko because I was like, they got high hopes for Fehoko. We saw the talent. We
Mhm.
seen the size and the speed. I'm like, yeah, they go 6 receivers. Fejoko's the 6th. We got Noah Brown, Cedric. They both making it. We know our
Yeah.
3. So let me go with Fehoko. But now, dog, no, I got to say Malik Turner's that 6. If they keep 6 receivers, Malik Turner's that 6. But I wonder, would somebody be able to poach Fehoko? So that's my concern. Would they
Mhm.
keep Fehoko, try to leave Turner open for a practice
Yeah, that's
squad? That's my tough thing now because Turner should be the 6 if they keep 6.
Mhm. I agree, and the Cowboys actually have a pretty good uh, case of receivers in that regard. Like they're pretty flush with talent, not just the top guys, but even like you said, the competition they have for the 6th spot in that regard. Like these are guys that you have multiple that you think if you tried to stash one of them on the practice squad is probably going to get poached. I think Turner certainly was a real standout last night in that regard. Obviously, he had a long of 20. Parker had a long of 36, but that was on a busted coverage, so I kind of set that aside.
Right.
But yeah, four catches on 5 targets, 47 yards, about 12 yards a pop. That's pretty nice. Like he certainly did good work in that game. Fehoko, that he's got the measurables that really intrigue me, but we kind of have to see how it translates. And the fact that he had 2 targets, 1 catch doesn't do a whole lot. And I think the measurables for him probably would make him likely to get poached off of your practice squad. So maybe there is a case there for trying to put Turner there instead. But I think you kind of it's kind of like drafting philosophy, right? Like you don't overthink it and say like, oh well, let's do this based on need. Like you take the best player there. And so
Mm-hmm.
if you feel that Turner is better, then I think that's your 6th receiver, and you just live with whatever the consequence otherwise is.
Yeah, and here's the thing: it's not like Turner is an old dude. He's 25. Fejoko's 23. You get what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Because Fehoko went on the mission when he first came out of high school. He went on a 2-year mission, so he came out. That's one of the reasons why he went out. He said he came out in the draft as well. His junior season, I believe, was because he was already older. So he
Yeah.
wanted to go ahead and get that tick. So you only got a 2-year difference, and Turner ain't no little dude. He's 6'2", 200 pounds. So it's not like he's a small guy. And he plays in the slot too. He plays very strong in the slot. You saw him with them catches over the middle. He's a guy that can get you them dirty catches. That's what I like about Turner. He's a dirty catch guy. He's a guy that you can get them dirty yards with. He can get them sneaky yards with. He can come
Mm-hmm.
play in that slot and get them 6-7 yard catches underneath that you need. That's what I like about him. And not taking anything from Fehoko, but he's a rookie. I don't know if you putting that confidence in him like that. They did overthrow him, and they didn't kind of give him a chance. So I give him that. They didn't really give him a
Mm-hmm.
chance, but you just see the difference in them two right now. So me personally, I would go with that. But it's going to be interesting, DDP, because of that practice squad, and people like to poach. And just like you said, with those measurables, teams will poach measurables. And
Yeah.
you're 6'3", 6'4" with 4.3 speed, and you leave him out there because you're keeping Turner. They're going to poach just because potential. Oh, we
Yeah.
got potential. And people love poaching from the Dallas Cowboys, period. Just
Mm-hmm.
because. You know what I'm saying? We see so many players get poached from us. It's ridiculous, even if they ain't good. It's just because they with Dallas and people want to take them. I feel like they
Yep.
do that too, DDP. So that's just going to be interesting on that receiver tip going right there. What'd you think about that McKenna kid, the tight end? What do you think about him? He had a couple of strong catches. Do you think that
Yeah.
uh
Yeah, I was impressed with his work and everything. He had a couple really good contested catches, kept things alive. I was trying to think of what the down and distance was. That first one he had, was it like a 3rd and 12 or
Yeah, it
something?
was a
Like,
big play because
yeah,
he had to stretch. He actually
hmm
didn't get the first down first, but he fought and got the first down because it was a
hmm
play. He actually got 4 yards. He got 8 yards, but he fell forward and drove those guys with him and got the first down. That's what got me excited. I'm like, okay,
yep.
I like that.
Yeah, no, that's exactly the kind of thing you're going to have to do. Like if you're trying to make it to this roster, especially tight end, which isn't a position that's going to have a lot of depth anyway, and you have that competition ahead of you where you have kind of two established guys, you have to be able to make that kind of play. And that's how you turn heads. That's how you separate yourself from the other guys, also challenging for that spot. So I really liked in a small size what we saw from him. 26 yards total. 13 yards was his long. So I think it was a 3rd and 12 that he converted for the first down. That was really nice. That was the first kind of play where I looked at him and was like, okay, yeah, I really like that. And if he can keep showing out like this, then I think he makes a very strong case for that 3rd spot.
I think so too. They're talking about Sprinkle in the chat. Shout out to Dre the Great and shout out to my dog the Ninja for the $2 holla. If you got any questions, throw them out there. I'll post those questions for you. I think Timothy Kane said, "Why are we talking about our QB? We got to talk about it. I'm not talking about Dak Prescott. If you listen to the conversation, we weren't talking about Dak Prescott. We were talking about the backup QB, and that needs to be talked about because if Dak goes down like he did last year, it's a reality. You need to have
Mm-hmm.
somebody to be able to play. So that's why we're talking about it. We were not talking about Dak Prescott, just so you know. But shout out to you for that. Tariq Salim says, get rid of Noah Brown. I can't do that because I like
Brown's
Brown.
looking good. Yeah.
Brown had a good catch in the very first series. I'm sorry, Brown can do multiple things for you. I know he does nothing great, but if we saw from when the Cowboys got him, they didn't use him correctly, okay? And he came out very young from Ohio State. You remember where he tore up Oklahoma? He was just a
Yeah.
freshman that year. You get what I'm saying?
Yep.
And he came out early. So, and he was a baby. He was like 20 years old when he came out, and they were using him as a blocker. Last year was the first year we actually seen him as a receiver because Mike McCarthy and Kellen Moore put him more as a receiver, and you actually saw what he could do, right, DDP?
Mm-hmm.
So he's not spectacular, but I don't want to cut a Noah Brown. Even if you have Fehoko and Noah Brown, and I know Noah Brown, but Noah Brown is still young. Noah Brown's still
Mm-hmm.
like 24. You know what I'm saying? So I like Noah Brown. I used to hate on Noah Brown, but guess what? I like him. So I was hating on him, and I'm not now. So I want to keep Noah Brown.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Noah Brown, he's 25. I think he's definitely worth hanging on to for sure. And I think if anything, you're starting to see him get utilized a little bit more and a little better now. So I think he's carving out more than just a blocker role. Yes, he only had one catch in this game. He was only targeted once though. So I think what he brings to kind of that grittiness, the blocking, like you were talking about, that does have absolute value and is worth committing to. So I would go that over Fehoko.
Yes, sir. And hey, let me give me we got a big shout out. Hey ho, we got a $20 holla in the building. We like them. We like the $20 holla. So let me put that up there real quick. See what he got to say. I just want to see improvement from the teams, players, and coaches. Let me give that is it Kozea Banks? Let me get you up there right quick for the $20 holla. We like them. Hey ho. Get that up there, big dog.
Big donor.
Yeah, we like them big donation. As you see your name up there, we really appreciate you, big dog. But yeah, man, I like Noah Brown, so I ain't getting rid of him. But I think my guy just jumped in here, and I want to give a shout out to him. I think it was is it Clary or the kid from Tiffin? Throw his name in there, people in the chat, so I can see it. But actually, one of my football kids, DDP, who I coached for like 10 years, and then he went to play high school ball. He played at Eastern Michigan, but he's currently at the Tiffin Dragons right now. This is last year. He's a linebacker. He's actually going to come on my show. He played with the kid right now who's with the Cowboys. He got drafted as an undrafted rookie free agent. He played with Josh Ball, too, at junior college when before he transferred to Marshall. And he's going to come on the show, and we're going to talk because, I mean, he's got some good size. 6'2", 240 pounds, runs a 4.6 40. I think he's got some potential, and this is last year, so we'll see. So shout out to my Tiffin Dragons out there, my dog Brandon Burks, and my guy who's on the Cowboys right now. From the Tiffin Dragons, and it's a small school out here in Ohio, so it's definitely big ups because Tiffin don't get no people like that, and the fact that the Cowboys picked them up, that's huge. So shout out to them for that. But sure, we appreciate you, Mr. Banks, for that. But let's talk about defense now, because that's what everybody was talking about. And there was one player in particular, but the whole damn defense was exciting to me. DDP, team speed. Overall team speed, I noticed. That was the thing that was exciting me the most, DDP, was the overall team speed. The guys were getting after it. Nashawn Wright, Kelvin Joseph, they were if they weren't getting passes thrown at them, or they weren't really throwing Joseph away, but they were in on tackles. They were preaching that get to the ball. You could see it. They were flying to the ball. I loved it. You weren't getting long runs. They were flying to the ball. You saw that young athleticism. But let's talk about one person in particular, and then we'll hit some other people. I said this guy was going to be the Dak Prescott of the defense, A1 day one, Micah Parsons. And I said, I want to see. I felt like this was like the DeMarcus Ware thing. I remember when DeMarcus Ware got drafted, how hyped I was. I wanted to see him in the preseason. I said, because if I see him in the preseason and if I think what I think he is, he's going to be dope. I saw him in that preseason game. Everybody talks about Seattle. He was everywhere. And you're like, yep, he the truth. We saw Micah Parsons. He played like 7 plays, 3 tackles, had the fumble recovery. You saw that speed evidently. You saw how he can come in there and make plays. You saw the instincts. I'm not just jumping over doing backflips, drinking all this Kool-Aid. But I'm telling you, dog, think about it. If you had 3 tackles and 7 plays, if you played the whole damn game, you probably had a 15, 16 tackle game your first game.
Yeah. I mean, his ability to fly to the ball is really special. We know about his speed. We know about his power and everything like that. So it's really encouraging. Like there's a reason there's kind of hype behind him. Now, in regard to that, he's shown right now he can be a magnet to the ball. Like you said, 7 plays, 3 tackles, all solo. Like that's really impressive. What I want to see is as he kind of grows, because you're going to see times too where the instincts are good, but I think you will see times too where he'll have some growing pains where he gets fooled on something, and he's always flying around, but sometimes he might be flying in the wrong direction for a step before he catches it. Now, that wasn't a case in his limited action last night, and that's good. I think you're right that he will be a wrecker of shop on this defense, which is a really good thing they've needed, and it could be special. Like I liked even just the instincts and the ball skills he showed with regard to that fumble, for instance, even though, it was a really bad fumble by Pittsburgh and just kind of bounced right there in front of them. The instincts and reaction were good. And then, how many times do you see a guy, and there was a chance later in the game too, where Dallas defense creates a fumble and a Cowboy tries to dive on it, but it squirts away from him and Pittsburgh recovers for a first down. Yeah, he didn't have that. He landed on it. That was it. Like he grabbed it, snatched it. There was no juggling the ball, no like over excitement of like, oh God, I got to get the ball. Like he just had it and like, that was it. Like really, really encouraging there to see the ability to finish the play in that regard. And I think he is going to bring something very special to the Cowboys defense. It might just take some time in that regard, just because he has to grow a little bit. And so some of the stuff like not getting fooled, being able to identify the coverages, that's going to go a long way. But I do like what I've seen from him in a small dose.
I mean, it's the real. I mean, and the ninja, my dog, chill out. Ain't nobody giving him the gold jacket, so chill out. Ain't nobody giving nobody gold jackets. What I am saying is this. I'll say this again. When Dallas drafted Jalen Smith, this is what they wanted Jalen Smith to be. This is what Micah Parsons is. They wanted Jalen Smith to be.
Okay, yeah, that was his player comp.
That was his play. That's exactly what they wanted him to be. But Jalen Smith is not that guy anymore. The injury messed him up, and we see Jalen Smith is just Jalen Smith. He's limited. He just is. There's no bashing him. It's just no dogging him. It's none of that. It's just Jalen Smith is limited. period. And now we have a guy who's not limited. Now you have a guy who's athletic, sideline to sideline. And just like you said, DDP, I'm not getting hyped up, not getting overhyped and saying this dude ain't going to get fooled and having his rookie blues. He's a rookie. He's going to get fooled. I have a play where it's in training camp where he had a backup running back. I can't remember his last name, did him on a double move and killed him for the touchdown. You get what I'm saying? It's going to happen. But at the end of the day, I feel like there's going to be more successes than failures with him this year. There's going to be more excitement than you being frustrated with him. I feel like you're going to see that team speed running down running backs, trailing down, running down receivers, as you've seen him run down the one receiver when he made the catch. You saw how quick he could swallow up that space. And that's what you like about him. He can swallow up space very quickly. And DDP, they're going to be blitzing him coming off the edge, dog. It's going to be very exciting. I think he's going to bring that element that we wanted. And, Jalen Smith, like I said, is going to be Jalen Smith. But if LVE, because if LVE stays healthy, here's my thing. If LVE stays healthy, DDP, LVE is healthy as hell. Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, not healthy as hell, athletic as hell. I didn't mean to say healthy as hell. He's athletic as hell. We love LVE's athletic ability, dog. We ain't never doubted LVE's athletic ability. We've loved that. Now you got another guy in Micah Parsons who's super athletic. Now you can put LVE at the weak side, makes him better. So I think Mark Parsons is going to make everybody better. And I think that's why I'm calling him the new leader of the defense. He's going to make everybody else better because of his ability. He's going to make the DeMarcus Lawrence better. He's going to make the Randy Gregory better. He's just going to make everybody better. And we're going to see it. Might not be now, just like I feel you on that. But later down the line, he's going to get rookie blues. But later down the line, dog, that was a great pick for me. I'm still saying with it. Some people say we should have went with Slater. Nah, I'm cool with this. I'm like Parsons. I'm a defensive guy. I love what I saw from him. Let's talk about the defensive line, the two other rookies, bro, because these two dudes, Bohanaman and Osa, dog, bro, hey, DDP, what? I like Bohanna. I like them too, dog. Tell me what you think. I like them too.
I mean, yeah, I'm very encouraged about the space that Bohanna in particular is able to kind of eat up inside, and very, very solid, I thought, from him. Obviously, one of the biggest issues with the Cowboys' defensive line in the last couple of years has been its ability to kind of clog up the line, like getting run on for days. And so having someone that can actually do that and actually make that difficult for the other team is huge. Like Cowboys have tried to plug those holes, whether it was like, oh, let's sign some guys in here. Who was the former Raven they brought in last year? They ended up cutting him like immediately in the season.
Brandon Carr.
No. I'm talking on the defensive line. Nada.
Who, Dallas?
Yeah, last season. I'm blanking on his name for some reason.
Are you talking about Dontari Poe?
Yeah, Dontari Poe. That's who I was thinking of. They've tried to plug in guys like that, and in those cases it did not work. So I'm encouraged that you have like a rookie coming in here and showing that he can, really eat up space for them. So I'm encouraged by what we see in this limited action. And if they can actually get that trench situated, we know they got pass rushers and guys that we're excited about, including like Randy Gregory, who might finally have the season that he promised forever ago, just with his ability. But if they can actually get the real interior of that defensive line situated, then it's going to be a very different defense moving forward.
Bohanna is going to make a lot of Bohanna. And it was funny. My dog Skywalker. Shout out to Skywalker. Still, he's like, I promise you, I'm not the Bohanna Stan account. He's like, I promise you, because he's always talking about him. But I feel him. It's hard not to talk about him because, first of all, dog, he's 6'4", 6'5". Let's say 6'4", right? He's 330 pounds. He don't look it. He carries his 330 great. And he is hella athletic. We're seeing people in the chat talking about it when he chased down I think it was the receiver from the backside.
Yeah.
You were like, whoa, okay. When have we had that? And not just him trailing them down, the enthusiasm. He doesn't mind taking on the double team. Him and Brent Urban, they said, I love eating double teams. I love doing this for the team. I want these linebackers to eat. I want this. When have we heard our defensive linemen, our defensive tackles, specifically, think about it, DDP, when we heard of our big guys saying that? I even heard our big guys saying, I love swallowing up the double team so I can make my guys eat. Those two guys prevalently have said that I want my guys. See, that stands out big to me, DDP. That stands out big to me. I want my guys to win. I want my guys to win. So that means that he's unselfish. See, when you're playing that middle, you can't always be about, and this ain't, and I'm people might take this as a diss to Antoine Woods, but it's not. But right. Antoine Woods was about himself, in my opinion. He was always trying to get, oh, you ain't talking about me? You ain't talking about what Antoine Woods is doing? But when I see a Brent Urban, when I see Bohanna, they ain't saying, look at what I'm doing. Look, I should be starting. Look, I should be doing this. Do I hear that? No, DDP. I hear, I want to take on the double team. I want to make my linebackers eat. I want to make my players eat. See, that's the attitude that you need. And then when you have the talent with it, DDP, what you have with Bohanna, it's going to make the team better. So now you got Bohanna in the middle, right? And Gallimore, he ain't little. Gallimore, your guy from Oklahoma, he done got bigger and he got the attitude. You imagine having Bohanna in the middle, then you got Gallimore right there, then you got D-Law right there, and you got Randy Gregory right there, then you're going to send Micah Parsons right up that middle, dog. Now I drink Kool-Aid, get excited, Grinch face come out, and then I'm feeling good. What you feel about that, DDP?
I mean, with that lineup, that's incredibly formidable. And that's why we have to actually see it play out. But on paper and the sound of it, everything looks really encouraging. It looks like they might actually have the pieces that can go do something now and actually make this a respectable defense again, because we know how bad it was last year. And we know that it didn't matter how many points the offense could put up. The defense was always going to bust on the back end. And I like that too. I think that's another key thing, obviously, with Quinn. The coordinator, is having a more simplified approach where you're not likely to have the busts on the back end where Dak can lead a long drive and score a touchdown, and then they're going to go the other way in 3 plays for 87 yards and a touchdown because the defense broke on the backside. That you can't have that happen, let alone how many times it happens. So whether it's the pressure up front, whether it's the linebackers flying around and making plays, Parsons, or an actually healthy fully athletic LVE, then you have a chance to really turn this into a top half of the league, certainly defense, I think. I don't think that's crazy. It's a little bit of a young defense still, but I don't think that I don't think it's putting the cart ahead of the horse to say that this defense's potential is vastly improved.
I feel you. See, I know a lot of y'all like controversy and like people arguing sometimes and like going back and forth, but sometimes when you disagree, you just agree, and we just feeling each other on this because it's just real right here. So it's just a lot of love going on. Let's talk about some Cox. A lot of people wanted to see Drabil Cox in there. I thought here's what I'm saying. I feel good about our linebackers. I have been saying that our linebackers the last 2 years was a sore spot. Linebacker was a sore spot. Linebacker was a sore spot. And now it looks like they finally got into it and addressed it. I saw Anthony Hines. You see that, the ninja? I said Anthony, not Kevin. My bad. I tweeted it wrong. He quickly got on me. I deleted the tweet. I did. I wasn't going to have the tweet stand up me looking stupid. I deleted that tweet fast as hell. Like, delete. Okay, Anthony. So he got me. Anthony Hines, my guy, Texas A&M. I don't think he's going to make the team as far as the active roster, but definitely if he can slide on that practice squad, there you go, the ninja. You see you laughing. But there, you know what I'm saying? I like his potential. Luke Gifford had 4 tackles. Gifford was showing up yesterday. Gifford was meeting plays. He was playing good in coverage, and we have been saying, Gifford, just stay healthy. And he was the darling the year before, right?
Yep.
And then Drabil Cox. I had got on Drabil Cox. I said, man, I love this dude's talent, but I don't know how physical he is. I think he don't want that contact. I don't think he want that contact, and the tape has showed he didn't. But he was sticking his nose in there. You can see his athletic ability, and I think they still want to bring him slow. So that's weak spot at the linebacker was maybe a year before. I'm not saying it's a strength, but there's depth now. I feel good. I feel better because now I feel like if a Jalen Smith got hurt or an LVE got hurt, it's not the end of the world now. And we have young athletic guys that can slide in there. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Makes you feel a little bit better going forward. Depth is key. People been talking about it with the offensive line, but depth is key, and we really need depth on that defense, in my opinion.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's been, you mentioned it, like in the past couple of years, the linebacker core, if we had an injury, it was devastating to what that unit could do. And Gifford, if healthy, plays great. Like 5 tackles, all solo, had a sack, a tackle for loss. Drabil Cox was a huge steal, I feel, for where you were able to get him in the draft. He had 4 tackles, 3 of which were solo. Had a special teams tackle too, I think, at one point that impressed me. Just chasing down and stopping, like it was a really good return from Pittsburgh. Just making a play, like having to like lay out to get the guy because he was flying from the other side of the field. So I really like what the promise is in terms of their depth, in terms of the ability to kind of plug and play if they have to. If you do have to lean on it. Now, I'm not going to act like it's not going to be any kind of drop off,
Right.
but it's not going to be a plunge off a cliff into the spiky rocks below that we've seen at times in the past. So I like what they're doing. I think they are building the defense. It's just taking a little bit of time and patience because you can have a strong starting defense, like everything, like coming into the season, everything looks good, everything looks right. But if you don't have depth, then that's going to get exposed over the course of a season because injuries happen. Both sides of the ball, doesn't matter. Injuries happen. You have to be able to build a complete roster in most cases. And the extreme example of that, obviously, was Philadelphia's run a couple of years ago. But any year, pretty much, you're going to have backups who either are having to finish the year or at the very least will have had to have made pretty significant contributions in season. So that's why it's so crucial to have these filled out rosters and have quality depth. If you can stash guys on the practice squad, by all means do it. But that is the danger of it is you can't hang on to a top tier depth guy on your practice squad or something like that. Like, okay, we think this kid's got a bright future and all that, because odds are if you're hyped on him, so is someone else, and they're going to poach him off your practice squad. So it's a balancing act. And I do wonder for some of these kids, like even the ones that we're excited about, are they going to actually get a chance here in Dallas, or is it going to be something where they get scooped up and we're like, damn, we'll come back a couple years later, like, wish we had held on to him. That would have been really nice.
Right. And let me give a quick shout out, filling you on that, to Elvis Fortiboo. He's becoming a member of the Big Game James Deluxe. So we really appreciate you. Welcome to the team. I really think you'll like it, especially when we do our members meeting. You're definitely going to like that. But shout out to you. Welcome in my family. Welcome to the team. You know how we do over here, Goon Squad all day. But let's jump in here. Let's talk about this secondary DDP, because a lot of people was excited about that. I'm going to be the first to admit, and a lot of people have been like, oh, Big Game James came around. I was the first to admit when they drafted corners. I said I didn't want a corner in the first round. Dallas didn't do it. Got a corner in the second round. Great. It was Kelvin Joseph. I was very adamant. I said I did like the J.C. Horn. I said, I loved his aggressiveness. I loved the attitude he brought to the team. I thought he would be great for Trevin Diggs, because Trevin Diggs didn't talk a lot. This dude could take away from that, and then Trevin Diggs could silently get them 5-6 picks and nobody ever be talking about him. So I said J.C. Horn. And I said, well, if you don't get a J.C. Horn and you get a later round, I said Asante Samuel Jr. I said I like his talent, and he is very talented. He's turning up over with them Chargers over there. I said the only thing, he just don't got that ability as far as speed like a Kelvin Joseph. And I have my hesitations and reservations with Joseph DDP, because of no rap, nothing like that. But, red flags when you have problems with your coaches, that's red flags to me. I don't care. I coach. That's red flags. Yeah. And so I was thinking about that. Still ain't out the water with me, not judging, but I'm just saying, still keep an eye on. But talent-wise, dog, nasty. Yeah. Just ability, seeing it up close, natural ability, crazy. They didn't throw his way. He was sticking his nose in all on tackles. Nahshon Wright, we saw him get shook daddy a little bit with the feet, and we saw Claypool get him deep, although it was an offensive pass interference. We already know that Nahshon Wright is not probably going to be great on slants. We've seen it in training camp that's kind of his weaknesses and may get exposed, but he can go with you deep, but he competes. But if you look at it as a whole, as the back end, I'm not jumping up and saying we got the best secondary, the best linebackers, the best defensive line, DDP. So people in the chat like, we're still going to. I'm saying the speed of the team. It hasn't looked like this. And when you drafted Cheeto, Jordan, Xavier Woods, we was excited, right? But I ain't going to lie. They're not exciting as it to me as 2021 with Kelvin Joseph, Nashawn Wright, Mokamu, and these other guys. It's just not, and I'm just keeping it real. There's no faking it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the way they've kind of been rebuilding the secondary is encouraging, and you mentioned the draft class before that we were excited about. That one didn't pan out, but I like the kind of mold they're building with these guys now. Joseph is an intriguing option there, but character stuff, that is something that has to be taken into consideration for sure. So I'm curious to see if we can actually get some playmaking in that regard, because how many times did we say in the past, like, oh, well, our guy was right there, but the offensive guy just made a better play. The receiver made a better play. Oh, he's in perfect position, but the guy made a play. Like, at some point, it's like, yeah, but when that stacks up 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 times in a season, you kind of start to say, like, he's always close, but not quite enough. And we need playmaking. We need turnovers is a big thing. And I'm liking the idea of some of these guys here, how they're breaking up passes. It seems like they're making plays on the ball better. And that creates opportunities for you in that regard. If you can get a shortened field, even just once or twice a game, that goes a long way, especially when you have a very capable offense. And so I like what they're doing. It looks like it will translate better than past attempts at rebuilding the secondary have, but we have to actually see it, right? This is all like preseason training camp. It's all in the hypothetical space still until we actually see how it translates in season. But for what we have seen and what we can comment on, I am encouraged with the direction it's heading. For sure, the sure tackle and all of that. You're not seeing them miss tackles and guys just streaking down the field, and that alone is encouraging.
That's alone encouraging because we saw what happened last year. We saw how bad it was last year. We saw how they weren't flying to the ball. We saw how it was a lot of missed tackles. We saw they were playing uninspired football. So for right now, I know it's only a preseason game. And here's the thing, DDP. People would be like, oh, you're getting hyped over a preseason game. No, I'm not. Mm-hmm. I'm not getting hyped over a glorified scrimmage. Okay. Yeah. I'm getting hyped over the things, the small things I'm seeing, running to the ball, gang tackling. Yeah. Sure tackling. When one person grabs them, they're trying to rip the ball out the hand. Reggie Robinson yesterday, I got on him. I said, I don't know if he makes the roster because Maurice Kennedy played good again. I mean, he's been playing good all camp. He played good last night. Maurice Kennedy is making the squad. They still got Jordan Lewis on the team. They love some freaking Anthony Brown, which I don't know why, but they love him.
Anthony Brown is one of the guys that I almost penciled in for like disappointments of the game. Like your winners and losers, I almost wrote him in. It's just he wasn't in enough for it to be too much more of an eyesore. But I think Anthony Brown is really a liability. That's the word I was looking for. A liability in the secondary at this point.
I mean, and here's the thing. Anthony Brown is not getting better.
No, okay? It all went downhill when he got the tattoo of a chip on his shoulder.
Right. I mean, we already know. Potato chip. I got a chip on my shoulder. You're supposed to have a big chip, I said. You can't have a Pringle. You got to have like a Ruffle or something, a Ruffle chip, because they're going to be a harder chip or a kettle chip. Put a kettle chip on there. They crunchy and they harder. So I think that'll be it don't break easy.
Pringles, put a whole bag of chips on your shoulder.
Me?
Don't put like
don't
a
have a Pringle though, bro, because a Pringle is flimsy and you ain't getting better, Anthony Brown. There's no disrespect to this dude. He's not getting better. This is what Anthony Brown is. I don't care if he has 4.2, 4.3 speed. It don't matter for him. It don't help him. It doesn't do anything for him. But obviously if they want to keep him, okay. So that's the only reason why I said, well, Reggie Robinson may not make the team, because if you're keeping Jordan Lewis and Anthony Brown there, it's going to be hard because you're keeping Maurice Kennedy, right? You're keeping Kelvin Joseph, right? You're keeping Trevin Diggs, right? The other kid they just got, he wasn't looking bad. The Kyron Brown, I think he could make it. So Reggie Robinson was in an uphill battle. But guess what? I said something about it. He comes in, punches the ball out, gets a fumble, makes a good play. Although he did get a touchdown caught on him, you saw that, hey, there's potential there on that back end. You see the safety position. Curse. We haven't even seen Malik Hooker. That's a good thing. We haven't even seen Malik Hooker. You feel me? DeMonte KZ. I'm just saying that the players that they've had now are a lot. The roster is better than it was last year. That's what I'm basically saying. If we're talking defensively, this roster is already better than last year's roster and maybe a few years' roster. Defensively, I feel it is more talented and it's very young. And when you get young and talented and you get a defensive coach that seems to have the love and the hands-on teaching and the family bond, that makes it a flying around, exciting defense. And like we said, if that defense can be top 15 or higher and your offense is rolling, you got a chance this year. And then it comes down to your coaching. If all three of those elements, special teams, which was trash, we hoping Zerline comes back because I can't blame Hunter because he doesn't kick field goals. So I'm not going to, you know what I mean?
You're not going to blame the punter.
I'm not blaming a punter.
Although I don't think I've ever seen a field goal attempt go further wide right in my life.
For sure.
You could have told me the goalpost was that way, and I would have been like, oh, it must be some optical illusion I'm seeing because there's no way he was aiming over there.
Right. That was crazy, but like I said,
that was impressive.
I'm
not hating on him.
I ain't Hunter. I like Hunter. You know what I'm saying? Because he can boom that punt. You feel what I'm saying? So Hunter can boom that ball. So I ain't gonna lie, I'm not concerned about the special teams. I feel like if you don't find Zerline doesn't get better for Bath, you can find a field goal kicker for the temporary. They always do. You can find a field goal kicker that can kick a couple field goals for you until your guy gets better. Because I've seen Zerline, working out and on his cords and things of that nature. Before we get off of here, DDP, do you have any surprise players that you saw in the game? Any players that you thought, well, hey man, he showed me something.
I like Dowdell a lot. Okay. Dowdell. Yeah. I was really impressed with what we saw from him. 8 carries, 43 yards. He has great acceleration, quick feet. Several times there, he just made really impressive plays on the drive. And he had a long of 25 as well. Like I really think he's a second-year player. I think you're going to be hard-pressed to stash him on the practice squad at this point. I think he would be one of those guys that would be snatched up in an instant. Hell, he might be snatched up by the Giants. It's just one of those. Yeah. Just one of those guys that I think, I don't know how many running backs they're looking to keep, but I'm almost tempted to try and figure out, like, is there a way I can hang on to him?
Pollard?
Ooh, over Pollard? I don't know, because I like a lot of what Pollard can bring. I just don't think we've had an opportunity to really see it yet. I'm high on Pollard still and what he can do, but I think at the same time, Pollard is kind of what he is. So, like, while it's a pretty talented running back and a guy, obviously, who's basically been receiver, I think if we're keeping 2, I don't think you can keep him. But if you find some way to hang on to another running back, I want to do that. I think he's worth hanging on to. Now we'll see. It could go downhill from here. You have guys who flash early in camp and early in preseason, and then by the end of preseason or into camp, they're not playing nearly up to that level. But for what we see of him and some of just the ability, the footwork, the acceleration, things like that, the burst, I really am encouraged. So I would try to hang on to him. That's actually an article I'm working on right now for Blogging the Boys. Is writing on Dowdell.
I wanna pose something to you, DDP. I want to ask you a question then. So do you think we're keeping Tony Pollard because of the draft status and Rico Dowdell may be the better player? Not hyping it, but Rico Dowdell has that explosion. We saw it last year when he did a kickoff return, I believe.
Yep.
He did a kickoff return. I was like, damn, who is that? I instantly was like, who the hell is that? Because of his explosiveness. He explodes to the hole, and he ain't no little dude. He got size. He got some good size to him. So here's my thing. I don't think Tony Pollard is going to be in Dallas in the future, in the future plans. This is why I say why. Zeke is motivated. He's in shape. Zeke is going to get them carries.
Yeah. Zeke's also paid as well. So
exactly. But here's my thing, DDP. Tony Pollard's in his 3rd year now, right?
I believe so. Yes.
Right. So he has 1 more year on his deal, right? What has he done for you to want to resign him right now?
Right now, there's nothing right now I look at that I say we have to have. He had a rough season last year, especially in the return category, which was supposed to be one of his bigger strengths.
Right.
And there was times where it felt like the problem was more between his ears. So I think that being the case, then maybe there is an argument to be had for Dowdell over Pollard. The only hesitation I would have there is we haven't seen Dowdell on the same stage. And so it's like, while we know the faults of Rico and it's easier to kind of, or not Rico, the faults of Pollard, and it's easier to kind of focus on that, we also know the positives of what he's able to bring to that and how he has flashed. And you're like, okay, if the problem was between his ears and he's resolved some of that, then maybe he still can be a bigger impact player than what you might get out of Dowdell as your backup. But I don't know, because you make a great point. Right now, there's nothing I've seen that tells me they would re-sign him after this year. And so if you look at it in terms of long-term planning and not immediately this season right now, what is the better move, then there's a fair argument to be had there.
Yeah, because my thing is, I don't think you're going to re-sign him, and you're not going to get that playing time from him this year because they're still going to give Zeke that damn ball. You don't have that status with a Rico Dowdell, and we just talked about it was between Tony Pollard's ears with the special teams. He came in because he had special teams play with him too. He hasn't been as spectacular in special teams at all his whole career. You've seen Dowdell show a little bit of flash, and he can play special teams. I'm not trying to stir the pot or cause controversy, but if you don't think Tony Pollard is really going to be in your plans in the future, and you have a kid named Dowdell that has speed, has size, playing his ass off, just saying, dog, nobody should be safe because of a draft status.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
And that's a very fair point. I think Pollard, when he's flashed, you see it and you're like, that's a really good weapon to have in your offense. But you also have seen times where he hasn't made much of an impact, or he's made the mental mistakes on special teams returning. And that's to me a concern, because it's like, when you start stacking up mental mistakes, that's really where I get concerned, because it's like the bare minimum you should be able to do is, catch the ball, basically field the ball cleanly, and at least get moving upfield. When you start having muffs or situational awareness issues as well, like when he's trying to return it, it seemed like for a while he just locked in on the mindset of like, I get it, I'm going. Like,
because he wanted to make a play so bad because he wasn't seeing the field.
Exactly. And that's where it gets concerning, where it's like he doesn't have the situational awareness where he's actually reading the guys flying down the field at him and what the spacing looks like. He just has made up his mind. He's like, I have to make a play. And suddenly he's getting tackled before he even gets back to the 20 or 25. And it's like, yeah, that's not really what we need there. Or he's making it just dangerous fielding as well. Like, they need to figure that out. I think that's something that has to be taken into consideration. The highs are good, but the lows are troubling, and status should not factor into that.
Yeah, this Spark Point says, dude, you really know football. You said Pollard is better than Zeke. I can't even speak with you on football any longer. So your comment that you just said just threw you all the way out of your football book with me. So if you continue to comment on here, that is great. But as far as football, me and you will no longer talk football ever again when you said Pollard is better than Zeke. So my question to you is, do you really know football? Next, anyway. So what do you think about the coaching staff? I mean, what do you think about McCarthy this year before we head up out of here, DDP? Let's talk about McCarthy. Yeah. Do you feel good about McCarthy this year, year two? How do you feel?
I feel better with the situation, just knowing he actually had an off season this time, right? He's actually getting like a more proper training camp. It's still different than even just a couple of years ago. But last year was such a rough situation, obviously. This is essentially CeeDee Lamb's, they were talking to him on the sideline at one point, Aaron Andrews was, about how, in a sense, this is like his first real training camp. Right. And the same is true with the coaching staff. They didn't get a chance to really come in and do a proper evaluation of it. Even now, the access that they have to the players and the way that they're having to work around the protocols and everything is more limiting than a couple of years ago when it was, pre-COVID. So with that being the case, I'm encouraged just for the fact that it's year two, the fact that he's kind of gotten his bearings, even if he wasn't afforded a proper opportunity to get them initially. That alone encourages me, but also just the fact that now we've seen the roster kind of transform a little bit now behind this new vision, whether it's with his new coaching staff, the coordinators in place, or it's just kind of, just the continued evolution of that. I think that gives a better sense of it, where it's like, it's kind of like in college, right? You get a new coach in, and it's almost like, even though this isn't the leeway given anymore, really, it's almost like you can't judge them until they've had at least 2 or 3 years, because you got to let their guys start getting in and kind of growing into the role. And that's really not something that's afforded anymore, because everything is expectation of results immediately. But I think McCarthy, he had moments in coaching decisions year one that were perplexing to me, but I'm willing to give some benefit of the doubt just because it was such a messy transition period into a season that felt like a train wreck altogether, whether it was the injuries or whether it was just having to work around all these stringent protocols and everything for safety purposes. So I think he'll be better than what we saw last year. I still don't know. I mean, I evaluate him and regard him higher than I did Garrett, for instance, but I still don't know that he is necessarily a great coach. I think he had the benefit of having Favre at the very end of Favre's career and then Aaron Rodgers. So I think that kind of possibly elevated his status higher than necessarily it should be. But I think he's a good coach.
I agree. I think he's a good coach. We'll see. Because my thing is, I feel like he's got a hot fish grease on him this year, because especially if Dak Prescott is healthy the whole year, there ain't no excuses. I say it every year. There ain't never no excuses, because Dalton has had the talent for a very long time. But you're coming in year 2 full all season. You got a lot of talent. I don't expect you to go 16-0 or nothing like that, but I definitely expect
17.
him. 7. I keep had a game, but 17-0. But just the fact that there's the division is not strong. We already know about the teams. People keep on hyping Washington. We know about defense. I'm not getting hyped over no Fitzpatrick, dog. You know what I'm saying? So the division shouldn't be say cakewalk, but you should win your division. You have the talent to bang against these top teams. We'll see week 1 against Tampa Bay. I know it's the week 1. It's a long season, so it could be totally different week 17, playoffs. But you get to get a quick gauge of where you may be, where you at. Maybe you need to improve. But it definitely needs to be a season where you make the playoffs and you make waves in there. I don't sit there and say championship or bust or this year, but I definitely say you definitely should win your division this year, and you definitely should come in there making waves, especially if you're relatively healthy. There should be no reason why Dallas isn't competing for the end prize, because Dallas has the talent, the youth. They're like 25.6 years of age.
Yep.
There's not 30-year-olds on the team. You have very good talent. You have an explosive offense. You have talent on the defense. You have young talent. You got a new defensive coordinator who looks like he's putting it back to where it's going to be more player friendly. So to me, it's not really no excuses, DDP, or why Dallas can't make a run. It really isn't. And if they don't, then I'm going to look at the coaching as well. Like, well, you got to move on again too.
Yeah. At some point, yeah, you have to look at that, because there's no leeway, right? We saw going into training camp, Jerry Jones getting emotional, talking about how desperate he is for another Super Bowl. And I think it's kind of, he's what, 78 at this point?
He's close to 80. And he's letting
so,
Jimmy in the Ring of Honor, so he's desperate now.
Yeah, now he's looking at it and he's like, all right, I gotta get all my affairs in order. Yeah. So I think in that regard, you see like Jerry feels that pressure. I think that's why you see him getting emotional. I think that's why you see him doing these things like Jimmy in the Ring of Honor, which was announced before the game. So I think in that regard, you have to consider there is no leeway. It's not just the state of the roster and the talent, because we've had several times in years past where that was the case, and we can't even get to the conference championship game. It's been a quarter century. Like, it's been forever. We are starved for this, and yet we can't even get back here. The entire league has pretty much had a chance for everybody to at least get to a conference title, if not a Super Bowl, since we last did anything. And so I think with that being the case, there is a very, very short leash. I was talking earlier about the need for instant expectation of results. That still rings true with McCarthy. If they don't deliver, if this is another year where even if they win the division and they get bounced in the first round, or they get bounced in the divisional round, whether it's wild card or divisional round, I think at this point, there has to be a serious consideration given to it. Like, okay, is this a situation where it's the coaching that had a fault? Was it a weakness for us? Or do we just have to get something else in here because we can't keep relying on the same thing? I think Jerry maybe realizes he got burned in his loyalty for a long, long loyalty to Jason Garrett. I think he wanted so desperately to believe that would ultimately pan out. And when it didn't, I don't think he's going to have that loyalty again. I don't think you're going to see another situation, because that was different. Garrett was here as a player. He was brought in before Wade Phillips was even brought in on that coaching staff.
Whole family had been with the organization. That was
super close in that regard. And I think he anointed him. We were talking about, like, don't give a gold jacket earlier, like in the comments. Same thing. He anointed Garrett, and he was so desperate for that to be right, because it would be further validation of his assessment. And I don't think that's going to be the case anymore, because he got burned by that. And so you're not going to have that super long leash. If McCarthy can't get something either this year, maybe he gets one more year, but you're not going to see another 10-year coaching run here. Jerry doesn't have that time, and Jerry is going to get, I think, really, really antsy as this stretches out. If they don't do something this year, I think he's going to try and do something incredibly bold. But that's just my speculation, my feeling on it.
I hate agreeing with you this whole damn show, but damn it, I am. I mean, I feel that too, that if it doesn't work if we have a disastrous type season again, he's going to do something very dramatic. He's going to do something very drastic, because he's going to be like, man, forget all this, dog. I need this now. I need this like water. Like, I need this other Super Bowl. I will do whatever now. I will do whatever. And I feel like the age has changed him, where he's like, I don't have a long time to do this any longer. Mm-hmm. You know what? I'm going to let you in here on this Ring of Honor. Bump it. I don't care. I messed up.
Will this break the curse, please?
Yeah, I'm telling you, dog, that was the curse. That was a curse to me. I don't care, because it was wrong on both parties, but it was really wrong to say, I'm letting you go. You know what I'm saying? It was just wrong. So maybe that can right some wrongs. Maybe that can change some things. And maybe that shows that I'm a back off and keep on giving less of the control thing and let some other guys do it. I think that's when you will actually see those things open up. When you think those doors were closed, those doors open up when you just back up sometimes and say, I don't got all the answers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. Sure.
I know. Hey, I didn't mean to cut you off, DDP. Yeah, KMT. I meant to tell y'all, everybody, once again, because I switched from Silver and Blue Nation to Big Game James, I think it may have kicked off your notifications. So you just have to turn off your notifications, turn it back on, whatever you have to do, because it's probably going to change, because I noticed it did it with mine too, with my Big Game James. So just turn it off, turn it back on. I apologize. We're getting ready to get off of here, so just run it back. It was a great show today. My dog was on here, DDP. We're going to start doing this once a week. I got a few weekly shows that I do with a few people. Boss Cowboy is one. My other guy, Mike White, with Burgers and Blitzes. We're going to make a name for this one, and I'm going to put it in the works, but me and DDP are going to start going once a week. He's going to continue to do his Dallas Mavericks thing that he's got over with the Dallas Prospect, but he's getting back in that Dallas Cowboy field, and I'm definitely going to have him riding with me once a week. You know, he's, like I said, he's with Blogging the Boys writing. His articles are fire. Please go check out that article he just wrote about Amari Cooper. Definitely need to go check it out. This was posted on the Bleacher Report as well. Shout out to my dog, already hitting the scene on the Bleacher Report with that article. So please go support it. Let them know about your DDP if they've been in the feed, ain't never heard about you, anything like that, and what we're going to be doing going forward.
Yeah, for sure, man. Appreciate the endorsement there. Yes, you can find my content over at the Dallas Prospect, of course. Check that out on YouTube. There's also the DallasProspect.com, where I do some writing as well. Blogging the Boys, that's a new role that I've picked up. I'm a front page writer there, but I also do work with them on podcasting and YouTube as well. Getting that going in the works. Probably pick that up starting next week, where I'm contributing on those fronts as well. Other Mavericks content, I also write for The Smoking Cuban. So there's plenty of places you can find my content. By all means, check it out. You can also find me on Twitter at KirbyCreate_DDP. But yeah, it's a busy season. I'm looking forward to getting back into the flow with Cowboys, talking with you every week. Felt weird last season, being kind of a spectator in that regard. I was still watching and still talking with you guys back and forth in text messages, but I didn't really cover the season in depth last year just because things were so crazy with school and all that. But I'm graduating in December finally, so I'm about to have some free time, and I figured what better way to use it than to get back into the mix with the Cowboys content and rolling out as much as I can. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah, man, it's going to be fun, dog. We're going to have a really good ride this year and beyond, man. A lot of good things going to be happening, especially when we start doing this weekly show. A lot of good information is going to be coming, so please make sure you check in. My dog, one thing I love about DDP, he brings my analytical side. He brings that analytical side that I really love. And so it's just going to be a great combination we're going to be doing. We have been talking about doing this for a while, but so many things that already been coming up on my life, his family life, had a beautiful daughter. How old is Harper now?
She is she's one, going on 14 months. But once they hit one, I don't really like to think about the months count. It's like you're one, maybe I'll count 1.5. But
Dad, you don't do that no more. Once they one, it's 2.
It drives me crazy when someone tells you about their kid and they're like, they're 17 months. And I'm like, you're going to make me do some mental math now? Like, okay, she's not 2 yet. Like, no. Once you hit 1 year, it's 1 year essentially until you hit 2. Like, we're not doing this anymore.
Right, exactly.
She's 48 months. Like, what? She's 4.
I mean, I used to think about that in prison terms too, and they'd be like, I got 36 months. I'd be like, damn, 36. Okay, 12 months.
Yeah, let me run the mental math. You got 5 years left? Wait, no, that's not right.
So, man, we going to really kick and have a good time, man. So please go check them out. Continue to support the stuff over here at Big Game James. Like I said, we're no longer Silver and Blue Nation. Let's continue to get those subs up. They've been going crazy, and I really appreciate y'all. Going to be hella videos coming. I am frustrated. I just talked to my dog Skywalker. They playing over there with that NFL network because that Game Pass got taken away. So that, oh boy, they just got me mad. Ain't no all 22 popping right now. So they just really tripping, and they just took my payment, and I'm really mad, dog. Damn. They took my payment, and I ain't no all 22. And I'm pissed off about that because it came out of nowhere, and that ain't cheap. And we already know that Game Pass ain't cheap, and ain't nobody paying for that stuff unless it's all 22 on there. So I don't care if NFL hear me. Y'all need to hear me right now. Y'all taking people's money, and y'all need to put that Game Pass back on that all 22 because don't nobody else watch that Game Pass except for all 22. So stop hating and put that back, or give me my money back, dog, because I'm pissed that y'all did it. So with that being said, we out of here. We're going to give you the data when we'll be going live each week. And so just stay tuned on both our channels and continue the support, continue the subscriptions on Dallas Prospect, DallasCowboys.com, all that good stuff. Big Game James, all them people out there that's doing a thing on YouTube. And let's get it. We'll talk to you soon. Big Game James, DDP. We out. Peace.